Last night, Donald Trump's victory was historic. 4 years after being voted out of office, Donald Trump became the second president to ever win non-consecutive terms, and he's actually the first ever felon to be elected to the presidency. And this as we wait for all of the votes to get tallied, because he may have actually also won the popular vote, which if his individual vote count holds, it will be the first time in 2 decades a Republicans won the popular vote. And, last night, pretty early on, things were already not looking hot for Harris. Right? It started with the little things. Like we had talked about in the past, Virginia was a key state to look at, because while she was always expected to win there, it was very important to see, is her lead something closer to Hillary Clinton or Biden? And unfortunately for her, it was Clinton numbers. We also saw things like in Iowa where pollster Ann Selzer just kind of got slapped around. She's been considered one of the top pollsters in the country who is, or at least was, famous for her accuracy, with her before the election making the shocking prediction that Harris would beat Trump by 3%. But Trump, he ended up actually beating Harris by more than 13% with almost all the votes counted as of recording, which was just so enormously off that Selzer's now saying that she's reviewing the data to see where she went wrong. And so based off of those, along with a few other bellwethers, it was not surprising to see Trump absolutely dominate in the battleground states. The kind of final nail in the coffin being when the AP called Pennsylvania for Trump about an hour and a half after it called Georgia for him. So after that, he only needed 3 more electoral votes to win. And then he got more than that when the AP called Wisconsin for him early this morning, with Trump then knocking down that final chunk of the blue wall and successfully flipping Michigan. And this is technically the 2 remaining swing states, Arizona and Nevada, as I'm filming. They haven't been called yet. But that's really more about seeing the final electoral count and whatever the popular vote is. And so with this, as far as why, while yes, in the coming days and weeks and for however long, people are going to be playing the blame game, pointing fingers while writing and filming retrospectives. I mean, if we just look at the data and we keep it simple, Trump increased his margins from 2020 to 2024 in pretty much every way he could. I mean, we're talking red states and blue states. New York moved 13 points towards him. You look at all these demographics, almost everything has a right-wing shift. So with these results coming in, there's definitely been a lot of focus on the Latino vote as well as the young vote. And this, as exit polls showed, that if people voted Republican, the issues that mattered most in deciding how they voted for a president was the economy and immigration. But then, with all that, we saw Trump speaking to a crowd early this morning after his victory became clear.
This was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
And from there, in addition to thanking the American people, he went on to acknowledge some of his most high-profile allies, complimenting and congratulating J.D. Vance.
And he's a feisty guy, isn't he? I've said, go into the enemy camp, and the enemy camp is certain networks, and a lot of people don't like to, sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay. Which one? CNN, MSDNC?
With Vance then saying what Trump had just accomplished was
the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Trump then coming back, thanking his top campaign advisors, also shouting out Elon Musk.
A star is born, Elon.
He then spent a couple of minutes gushing about SpaceX's successful landing of its Starship rocket last month.
And it came down so gently, and then it wrapped those arms around it, and it held it, and just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see, and I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No, nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon.
And of course, all of this is Musk's been spending time and millions of dollars trying to get Trump elected. And actually with that, Musk's expected to have a position in Trump's administration, with Trump then thanking and giving the mic over to UFC CEO Dana White, who then himself gave shout outs.
I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelt Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustin' with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan.
With Trump then coming back and calling out RFK, who reportedly he's promised control of the public health agencies.
And he's going to help make America healthy again. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, Go have a good time, Bobby.
And actually, on the health note part, RFK reportedly said today that entire departments within the Food and Drug Administration have to go, saying to MSNBC, in some categories, there are entire departments, like the nutrition department at the FDA, that have to go, that are not doing their job. They're not protecting our kids. And in that same interview, when RFK was asked if there are any vaccines he would take off the market, he replied, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines, with him further adding that it is about choice and people making their own informed individual decisions. But then, with all of that said, as far as on the other side, right, Kamala Harris, she did not release a statement last night. Instead, we learned that today she called Donald Trump to concede the election, with her reportedly congratulating him and discussing the importance of a peaceful transfer of power and being a president for all Americans. With the Trump campaign spokesperson saying that he acknowledged Vice President Harris on her strength, professionalism, and tenacity throughout the campaign, and both leaders agreed on the importance of unifying the country. With then Vice President Harris speaking to the American people today, just before we uploaded the show.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
But they're going on to emphasize the need to accept the outcome of the election and promising to engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. We owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
They're then concluding by vowing to continue fighting for what she believes in and encouraging her supporters not to give up.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy. The fight for our freedom will take hard work. But like I always say, we like hard work. And the fight for our country is always worth it.
And while in a minute, we're going to continue down this road, we're going to be talking about what is next. I got to ask, with everything we've covered so far, what are your thoughts with this news? Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this clip from the full Philip DeFranco show. And also, a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring our Clips channel. Turn your passion into profit over at squarespace.com/Phil, or use the QR code. Because whether you're launching a business or a lucrative side hustle, your website is your digital business card. It's the only space where you control the story, no algorithms or distractions. And with Squarespace, it's so easy because they got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple. No coding required. So get started for free at squarespace.com/Phil, or scan the QR code on screen and use code Phil for 10% off when ready to launch. Squarespace.com/Phil.